Line right after you press recording. I just said we're at maximum chaos in my house right now. We are revamping our mudroom to have a wall that's going to be like a pantry. Because our pantry for 4 people is about like 8 inches wide. It's this little tiny closet, um, which is not enough. So we have stuff everywhere. You know, when you're doing a project and you're getting into the project, and so things start getting a little bit disorganized and crazy, and then you reach the point of maximum chaos where like it's the craziest it will be. And that's where we are this morning.
Well, hopefully it'll be downhill from there if you've hit the max point.
Well, you had
Yeah.
you had children to any project, and I feel like it's the max point is easier to hit.
Yeah.
Children and dogs. Like cats could care less, but
Right.
dogs also make things a little wild.
Yeah, they did make painting the room pretty fun.
I'll tell you what, everybody. My band is checking the weather. Like they're looking at what the weather is in Fort Wayne every other day, because we're in for what Floridians will feel like is a winter a winter extravaganza. It'll be like 40 up there, and we'll be like, oh man, it's gonna be freaking cold.
I remember going to Fort Wayne where it was snowing sideways in April.
I do remember that. That was totally unexpected. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not good.
I feel bad for the state of Indiana because in terms of like my treatment of the state of Indiana, because like I don't think I've ever actually gone to the state of Indiana for like to go to said state. Like I think it's always been I go to Fort Wayne for a NAB or something like that, or I go to Bloomington for like a conference or something. I don't think I've ever just like gone to go, gone to Indianapolis just to be there,
But isn't that most places? Like, why would you go to most places unless you had a very specific reason to go there?
I don't know. I feel like the people who live there would tell you, oh, you need to go so you can check out our world famous apple orchard or something stupid. I don't know. There's always something there. But we're excited.
Yeah.
Now, Indiana has like, especially Indianapolis. I love Indianapolis because for an event destination place, it's awesome, especially the downtown area when they do the Grand Nationals or the DCI finals there. It's
You
awesome.
go to that pretty regularly, right? The DCI finals?
I wouldn't say regularly. I've only been to Indy once for that.
Mm.
And really because it was the same weekend we did our NABA board meeting the same weekend there. So I went to semifinals that night. But other than that, I haven't gone to it there because I've always been working during that time, and it's tough to get away. But it's awesome. If you get a chance to go, you should definitely do it.
Yeah, I don't think I've been. I mean, we usually kind of go through on the way to Chicago. That's that's kind of, but I am excited to be back in Fort Wayne because when I was last time we went to Fort Wayne for NABA, it was when I lived in New Jersey, so I didn't get to have like the full convenience factor of it
Being 3 hours away,
yeah, yeah.
being a day trip for you.
Right. I mean, that's why it's going to be pretty easy to bring the youth brass band. It's 2.5 hours away. We don't even have to
That's
get a
great.
bus. We're just going to be like, okay, everyone meet out there.
Yeah, the gigs in Fort Wayne. See you there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that way for a lot of bands.
Right. Well, I mean, that's why I said when I lived out in New Jersey, it was, I don't know, 12 hours away, I think.
Did you drive it or fly it?
we always had an option. There was frequently a bus that went. We would sometimes combine with Chesapeake or Rockville and get a bus. I in the beginning I took the bus, and then as just life kind of started getting going and I didn't want to spend, that amount of time on the road, I started flying. And I would fly into Detroit because my sister lives like an hour and a half south of Detroit. So sometimes she would come and pick me up and I'd have lunch and then with her and then, go on
Yeah.
my merry way.
Yeah. Well, Philly's one of the few airports that flies direct into Fort Wayne too.
Yeah, but the thing is that with the euphonium, I kind of shy away from
The little planes.
little planes. I can get my euphonium on most larger planes. I have a whole like strategy for getting the euphonium on the plane. I pay to board early. It's like $30. Pay to board early. And then I check, obviously, first if it goes in the overhead. And then I check with each flight attendant one by one. It's very important. Anyone listening who tries to get euphonium on a plane, check with the flight attendants one at a time, because one of them is probably going to be nice. If
One
you
out
check
of
with all
four.
of them all at the same time, they're going to come up with an answer all together, and then they're going to stand unified. if
Yeah.
you if you check with them one by one and one of them says that they can do something, then you have that with the rest of the
Yeah.
flight attendants. You can say, but so and so said that they would check fill in the blank,
Right.
and then
Do you
yeah,
do you carry it in a hard case or a soft case?
I carry it in my Bana case.
So
um
yes, hard soft.
Hard soft.
I
And
take mine in
then
my normal soft case though. If I'm on the plane, I'll take it in
Yeah.
normal gig bag because otherwise most hard cases won't go up there.
my Bana will, but it's
It's made for that. That's like its
yeah,
thing.
yeah. And then after I check with all the flight attendants, there's usually a closet um for for the flight attendants, like coats and luggage and stuff. So I ask
And
if they
golf
can,
clubs.
yeah,
Yeah.
I ask if they can check that. And if they can't do that, then I ask for an empty seat. And if they can't do that, it's only come to this once, when every option was done. At that point, I just kind of start making a little bit of a commotion, be like, well, what can we do? What kind of agreement? Like, how can we make this happen? I usually use that phrase. How can we make this happen? um, I will sometimes I will do the gate check if I need to. But one flight then said they couldn't gate check it. They wouldn't gate check it. It would have to go in like the regular luggage. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm not going to do it. And then finally the pilot just came out and was like, I played tuba in band. You want me to keep it in the cockpit? And I was like,
Wow.
yes. Yes, please.
No guarantees I'm not going to practice it while I'm flying the plane.
But there's always been someone
What?
is nice.
Hold on. Okay. So what instrument? If your pilot plays an instrument regularly, what instrument would you want it to be? Because I'm not sure I would want a tuba player to also be my pilot. I hang out with too many tuba players. Like tuba percussion, I don't know about y'all. Also being in charge of my life.
I
I,
think
I actually know a pilot that I went to school with that was a percussionist. He's
Oh,
a
really?
pilot. Yeah,
there
and I have a former student who's a trombone player that was in the youth band that's a pilot too.
really.
I feel like percussionists are the kind of people who would, in a small plane, like if you were like a one-on-one and they were just kind of hanging out, they're the kind of people who would take you up about 200 feet and then cut off the engine just to mess with you.
And they'd be playing on their practice pad.
Yeah.
I went,
So
I
what are we doing here? We haven't been here in like a year.
I know. We recorded, just so you guys know, anyone who might be listening, we recorded a host podcast episode a while ago. And then enough time passed that we were like, this is no longer valid. And so we're here to record another podcast. We had a really slow start this fall because we just are all very busy. Um, because we usually record a ton of podcast episodes in the summer so that we can have them to go through our busy period in the fall when school's starting up and everything. But Aaron and I kind of messed that up a little bit
Yeah, they
with
blew it.
our world traveling. So
It
we
was
didn't get
funny
those.
enough, being together made me and Amy being together made being together for the three of us way more difficult.
Yeah, yeah. So we didn't get those episodes, and then when we didn't get those episodes, it kind of snowballed. And but we're here now, and we're back. Um,
So, and you know, we also had like account issues of getting like things back in and like
yeah,
losing access to some stuff. So, but it's all good. We're all here now. We have
yeah,
it.
we have it.
Do we have access back
We
to the
have it.
YouTube channel?
Yes, we do.
We do. I haven't tried yet, but we should. I've got the new password and everything. So,
Did we figure out which email we used to set it up yet?
Oh my
I knew it
god.
was that one.
Oh my gosh.
I knew it was that one. So what? So what kept us all? So should we do a roundtable? What kept us all so busy? What have we been up to? Do you have a Care Bears mug?
Mhm.
Sorry, I got
Yes, I
distracted.
do.
So Tony, what have you been up to since like July?
Uh, well, I mean, that's such a long time.
That's like the last time we did one of these.
Um, well, I mean, I've just been working a lot, you know, keeping the kids running, um, playing gigs from here to there, teaching lessons. Um, so it's just it's just very busy all the time. And the next couple of months are going to be probably as busy as I've been in a long time.
And you were kind of
Um,
settling into a new-ish job. I know it's not now, but like
yeah,
post NABA, you were getting into a new gig and getting used to
Yeah.
that and all that sort of thing too, right?
yeah. I mean, I was working at University of North Carolina, which is exciting now with Coach Belichick taking on the gig now. So might be able to go see some football games or at least watch all the drama that unfolds around it.
I can't
Um,
imagine there being any drama. I'm just excited. Can you imagine Coach Belichick in a portal era NCAA football? Like, oh, you don't want to play here?
he's
Okay, whatever. Like, I can't see him caring.
Yeah, it's like, well, you don't want to have an NFL career? All right, go to Alabama then.
Bingo, exactly. Just like, okay, whatever. He's like, I'm not going to NIL you. Whatever.
Oh, they're NILing people.
Oh,
They
I'm sure. I'm just,
they they've UNC threw money at the NIL fund. So they're going to be relevant in football somehow, even if it's just news stories for the sake of news stories.
yeah, I'm hoping they're relevant because they play well and not like Colorado where it's just a spectacle, and then they end up 6-6. But so lots of work. All right, Amy, what about you? What have you been doing?
I
You got Care
actually
Bears?
pulled up my planner on my phone because I was like, what have I been up to? I don't know. Well, we Aaron and I went to Japan to play at the IWBC in August. Um, so that was cool. Um, and then I kind of lay low in September, I think. I'm like literally looking at my planner because it's been so long. October, I played Planets with Akron Symphony. This has been like my year of the planets because I played the planets with the Columbus Symphony last fall, and then Akron Symphony planets. No, when was I don't remember when Columbus was. But regardless, Akron in when was that? I don't know. I played recently. And then there's a smaller like local symphony that I'll be playing with this spring. So lots of planets. Really cool. I really playing the planets. So more people can hire me to do that. That's okay. That's okay with
Since you
me.
know it now, right?
I already knew it, but like going over it again and again and again in the same year is like, um, and with the US Open with Dublin silver, which went surprisingly well. Dublin silver got second, which with five lakes in the competition is honestly just like getting first. Like, we were not going to beat Five Lakes. So coming in second and beating another championship section band that was there, we were pretty excited about that. We played a new arrangement, Joshua Jameson arrangement of Bridge Over Troubled Water, which is just amazing. Um, and it's I forget what his name is, but his arrangement of Bridge Over Troubled Water. So it's like an arrangement of an arrangement. Um,
Yeah.
and it's really kind of like bluesy and cool. And so we won for best original composition for that, and then I won for best soloist during that, and we won best euphonium baritone row. So we were
Nice.
we were pretty excited about that. Um, and so, yeah, it was a gorgeous arrangement, but it had a ton of extended chords. So it took us a long time to put that piece together in particular. So that was really cool. Um, and in December, typical gig miss, played with River City for one of their Christmas shows. Every now and then they call me out for like a help. All the local subs can't do it, so I going out
Ooh,
there. Um,
nice.
it's not too far. It was like a gig that was just over the Ohio River, so it wasn't all that far, and I just stayed with my parents. Um, and some of the small stuff that's just kind of like around Christmas time. I also got COVID over Christmas. So we
Right.
just kind of all of us just kind of stayed home, and then the COVID kind of just after COVID, then I got a little bit of a cough, and then my throat got sore, and then now I sound like I'm baritone. So so that's why my voice sounds weird. It's been like this since the end of December, believe it or not. So that's kind of annoying. Um, and January, oh, I recorded for uh for a publishing company early in January. That's always one of my favorite gigs because you get to see all the new music that's coming out. You know what I mean? Like before other people see it. Um, and so this year was a lot of like middle school music. So it was like one and done. Last year was
Yeah.
more like college level stuff. We're like, oh my gosh, I need to use my brain for this. And we start at 9 in the morning. So there's nothing like playing like
Yeah.
marches at 9 in the morning. Um, but that was lots of fun. So that's where I am now. And Dublin Silver is working on getting things started up for NABA prep and Dublin Youth Brass Band is up and running. So that is my update. Aaron, what have you been up to?
The youth band's like bigger than ever, isn't it?
It is. It is. We're just short of a full band at this point. We need a baritone. We need a second baritone. We have two trombones. I'd actually like to have four. Just because, but also because like middle schoolers, well, I have two middle schoolers and they haven't discovered their power yet.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. So they
You need
haven't,
power
they're
on the
playing, they're
trombone.
killing it. They're killing the part, but they're just kind of, they're quiet back there. So it'd be really nice to have four trombones to give them a little bit of confidence. And we don't have an E flat. We don't have a sop. Um, and we have a kid who really wants to play horn instead of tenor horn. So, we have that going on. Um, but we're going to be in the youth open section and see how that goes. We have a piece written for us by Chris Hines, who's a local composer. The Dublin Arts Council gave us some grant money for a commission. So thank you to the Dublin Arts Council, and and Chris Hines is a killer composer. He works mostly for DCI stuff. So you're talking about someone who knows what middle schoolers and high schoolers think is cool. Like he knows. So
Mhm.
I sent the score to Lucy Pankhurst without telling Chris. And I was like, so what do you think? And she was like, yeah, this could totally with a few tweaks, this could totally be published. So the two of them are going to meet after NABA, after all that craziness is done. Because we did a few things to kind of make it so that my band could play it. So like there's a solo in the B flat bass, which would be make more sense in E flat. But I didn't know if we would have any E flats. I
Right.
didn't know if I'd have any kids on E flat. So I put it in the B flat bass. And like there's an F horn part that's just the tenor horn part, but that would need to be taken out for, you know, an actual publication. Little things like that. But they're gonna work together to get the piece that we commissioned published, which is
Well,
great.
I mean, the way they do that stuff now, you might as well just transpose the parts for F and E flat horn and put them in. They you call it world parts
Yeah, we need
on
more
some
world parts.
publications.
Exactly.
We do.
Mhm.
We do.
I mean,
I,
if
I
it's primarily going to be for a band of that level, then you should have both options.
I
Right.
genuinely think there is a there is a market for people who are doing that like grade 0.5 to grade 2 level music.
Yeah.
So like really early, especially if you want to break into the North American market, but also help the North American market grow when it comes to brass band,
Yeah.
is having the horn and F parts and having like optional fifth part that can move to an E flat bass or move to a euphonium line or something like that. Like things that like where coverage is easy with just like 4 voices or 5 voices, like what the Salvation Army does, a lot of times with that stuff, but making it practical for American wind band translation as well.
Yeah, and the
Optional
reality,
soprano, cornet, stuff like that.
Yeah.
yeah, and the reality of the tuba parts is like usually you're going to have 4 B flat tubas back there.
Yeah.
You know, it's so you might as well just write the parts with that in mind.
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, yeah, you can have the top octave done by the 2 E flat bass parts, but you know usually they're going to be playing it on a B flat bass.
Yeah. And the only reason we have an E flat bass this semester is we have someone who wanted to switch to tuba. He kind of wanted to try things out a little bit. Um, but when you have a euphonium player, you can switch them to E flat bass, and they can read a treble clef bass part by just reading
Hmm.
bass clef. So if you just give them
Yeah,
the little talk about the key signature change, then so he's just he's dipping one foot in to tuba land. And if he stays, honestly, he probably will switch to a B flat because that's just, what we tend to do more of in this country. And I think he's like a high school freshman, it would probably be more comfortable for him. So we do have an E flat this term, but we didn't anticipate that at all. Um, but I think it's a great piece. People come see us at NABA so that you can hear the piece. But Lucy said,
brand new music,
yeah,
brand new music. That's awesome.
it'll be premiered at Dublin Festival of Brass, and we'll have two premieres because Jose Howard from University of Akron wrote us a march. He's a euphonium student, but he wants to get into composition. And I was guest lecturing at University of Akron a while ago, and I said, okay, you want to get into composition, write me a march. And so he wrote a march, and it was not ready for prime time. So
Yeah.
there was like $100 left in the grant money. So I hooked him up with Chris Hines for some composition lesson time, and he made some adjustments, and now it is almost ready for prime time. And then I said to him, we cite Reddit, and I send them a few more adjustments, and then it'll be ready to go. So people who want to get into composition, like you don't just write things and like have them be ready to go. There's edit after edit frequently. So it's looking really pretty good now. Some good ideas. And so yeah, so he'll get a performance. It's a good project for a college student wanting to
Yeah.
learn some of this stuff.
So have you guys read through the Pankhurst piece yet?
Yeah. Yep.
How is it? How is it live in person?
So it's funny because we sight read it and we sight read it a while ago. And some of the players were like, this is not hard. I can play through like my whole part like in one go. And then last night at rehearsal, as we're going over, these crazy like metric modulations and stuff that she has written in there, it's like, yeah, so is it still so easy? So our individual parts are easy. It's there is
Yeah.
not, I mean, there are a few parts that I really do need to look at, some euphonium noodling here and there. But by and large, our individual parts are easy. It's really is a rehearsal piece, a piece that has to be put together with other people and work as a complete team, and that's the tough part. And so I think we're going through the phases of, in the beginning, oh man, this is going to be super simple, we're going to rehearse it a few times and be done, and then be like, oh man, we have to fit all of these different parts with different rhythms together to actually make it sound like something, and that's going to be the difficult part, because Lucy does rhythms differently than most composers I've come across. So she combines things for this rhythmic texture, and that's pretty difficult to put together. Um, and she also pays so much attention to every single detail. Um, the little jazz band thingy that is in the one section is the chord progression from Hello Goodbye from the Beatles. So it's a a dance hall being torn down, and she's using the chord progression from Hello Goodbye. I mean, how, like, she thinks of everything, absolutely everything.
Yeah. Well,
So cool.
I mean, I'm super excited that this piece is like in the band rooms and getting played now, and getting ready for,
Yeah,
the big show in April,
yeah. It'll be
'cause, I
cool to
mean,
see people's interpretation, because since it is not a soloist's piece. There are no solos
yeah.
to like
Well,
show off your
yeah,
individual.
it's not a traditional test piece. It's a work of art. And I think that's going to be the thing that's fascinating about it is, and I mean, I talk about this, when we talk about judging a lot, it's like, I don't believe that contests are academic exercises. The brass band competition is an art contest, and therefore the artistic side of things needs to be the motivation for everything, and having a piece that's more artistically motivated than test motivated, I think is a great philosophical approach to go about, this contest. And I know that when I work on selecting music on that committee, like, that's what drives me, and what like to put my vote in for selection is music that's great music, not just something that's going to challenge. And I think that some of the test pieces this year aren't as technically as challenging, like uh Titan's Progress. That piece is hard, you know. The
Mhm.
Paul Levitt Cooper piece that we commissioned a couple years ago, that piece was hard. But they're great works of art, and Crazy 20s isn't nearly as challenging as those,
Right.
um, but it's an unbelievably wonderful piece, and it's listener friendly, and everybody that sits there and listens to 9 of those in a row is going to be like, wow, this is fun, because it's
Yeah.
such a cool piece.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to Ghost of Industry getting that same um, approach.
Yeah, I think it's going to leave a lot of space for individual interpretation. And I think that we're going to hear a lot of individual performances that are totally unique based on what she's written and how each band decides to carve it out.
That's pretty cool. Um, Aaron, have you guys started working on your NABA music?
We have, yeah. Um, so we're doing second section again. So we're back in the kernel, doing the loud, as
Yeah.
I like to call it. So we've been doing that, and then we got our own choice. And we could not have picked a more, because Lada is a very stereotypical, and I'm not this. I hope this doesn't. I'm not trying to say it's bad for this. I'm just painting it. It's a very stereotypical 19 something Salvation Army James Cornell piece. You know what I mean? Like it's just like what when you say that, that's exactly what you're getting, and which is fine. Like that's great. It's still like it's a great piece of music. So I'm not trying to give it a hard time for that. And then what we picked as our own choices is way more just like competition music for now, like the way it's been more recently. And it's been in the second section before, and so like we know it's it's just very different. So it's a lot of fun because we get to like go back and forth with those types of things. It's also nice to not be doing a premiere. So we have reference recordings of the piece that we picked and stuff, and we can like listen to how people did it. And I don't know what type of mute worked or whatever. So that's been a lot of fun. We have a new director now, and this will be their first time going to NABA as a conductor. But we're also blessed to have Craig McKenzie has come to the state of Florida, working at Miami now. So we get to abuse him and be his outlet for brass band from time to time, and bring him across the state, which is going to be really nice. So yeah, and we're going after it like everybody else. Schedule's all set. We're gonna do a nice little caravan on our way up to the Great White North, and it's gonna be a fun time.
The Great White North. Oh.
The way things are going now, there's probably still going to be snow on the ground in April.
It might be some of my people's first time seeing snow. It's not unheard of normally it's college bowl games is the first time they do that, but yeah. Otherwise, yeah, fall has since fall was probably the busiest semester I've ever had. Period. And like I'm done with the doctorate, and it was like that's including when I was working full time and getting the doctorate at the same time. Like this fall was the worst I've ever had. Stepping onto a plane to Japan, I got called by my department chair asking me if I could teach a class. And it's a 4 credit hour class. I wasn't fully developed yet. And so like I had a syllabus and that was it. And then the other class I was doing, I was changing how I was doing it. So I was literally waking up every single day, at like 5 or 6 in the morning, reading about 30 to 50 pages of text. Reading. Aggressively scanning is probably a better word for it. And then making a presentation to then give later that afternoon. And that was like rinse and repeat every single time. I was also balancing 2 schools. So I started working at the University of South Florida as well. So I was working adjunct at 2 schools. Also, a great thing, and this is going to sound like I'm complaining about being busy. I'm not. A great thing happened is we got control of Florida's oldest brass band and the Sunshine Brass Band, and we got to have Sunshine Brass Band come back. And when you get a hold of a nonprofit that's been defunct for about 4 to 5 years, and you find out that they had assets, then you have to find the assets. And not everybody is really good about keeping track of where their stuff is. So it's like doing stuff like going over to Tony's house. Hey, Tony, do you still have that flugelhorn? And Tony, this Tony in particular, not the one we're talking to, but this Tony in particular being a little bit older, being like, what's flugelhorn? Right? Because it's an old brass band in Florida. So there's been a lot of that. We also we've been in the process of scanning their library, and we're talking 5 to 6 filing cabinets chocked full of brass band music. Now, unwavering quality.
Yeah.
Not in terms of like what you're getting, but once we digitize it, I think the Tampa Brass Works, the overarching organization, will probably have the most full, I guess, the largest digital library of any brass band. Now, is it all pieces that people are necessarily going to want to be playing on a seasonal basis? Probably not, but it's a lot of stuff that I think for posterity's sake is really important to have digitized just to be safe. We're getting a lot of like I'm finding music that was like published like turn of the century for brass bands, but it has like D flat piccolo parts in it involved as well, like stuff like that. And we just have it. So it's cool. It's cool that we have it, that it exists, and it was saved in the hurricane. The hurricane also didn't help things. That became a major problem for us. We did get flooding inside of the house. My wife and I were bailing water for about 6 hours one night, but we were able to save the library. Water did not get anywhere near the library. Also, water stayed away from the expensive stuff, which was nice. But drywall itself is also going to be quite expensive. So it was like... So yeah, but I'm also now directing Sunshine, and we got that group going, and it's the typical problem. I don't know if you've ever seen this when you start brass bands in your areas, but you always have a hard time getting people to join. You play one concert, and then you're beating people away with a bat. That's exactly what happened. We did a Christmas concert, and now we have a full band all of a sudden. And so it's great. So we have 3 bands in the organization. The youth band's getting started here in a second. I have nothing to do with that ensemble anymore. I have given that away to people, and I just help them as best I can. But it's been a lot of that. I threw a tuba recital in the middle of that too, and that was my fault.
For good measure.
It was wild. Got another recital coming up on euphonium, and then getting ready for my finishing my second album finally.
Really?
I've had recordings for about 80% of that thing for about 2 years now, and we just got to work out. I have a concerto that's got to be premiered on it, or it was written for the project, with that. It was either supposed to be with the UF brass band, but their scheduling is always weird, just being a student organization, or we'll just grab another, the Tampa brass band. I'll make them come in the summer and we'll do it, get it taken care of. So we got that. And now I'm playing trombone in an orchestra now too. So I'm in a per service regional orchestra now. So it's like, I look at my schedule every week and just survive the week. Like, I don't think ahead in any capacity anymore, And then summer will come and I'll have productivity anxiety, and I'll just have my 20 students, and that's the other, 20 students on top of that. Had the most all-staters this year than I've ever had all in a go, but no trombones, those bums. I didn't have a single trombone this year, which is weird. Normally I have a trombone every year, but so it's the stuff, it's what we do, how we do it. It's the way we go. All the things, doing all the things we do so I can make money, so I can do the only thing I actually want to do, which is playing the dang brass band.
Yeah.
I think
Which unfortunately doesn't make money.
It really does not.
Well, I think while you were saying these things, I hope that there are some younger people who listen to like what we're talking about when we're doing our updates and stuff, because like, I think so many people think like, I'm going to be a musician and I'm going to find a job. Like, I'm going to get like, capital JOB, I'm going to get a job and that's going to be what I do and they will pay me. And in reality, we are all like, the majority of us are like teaching here, playing there, joining up with this ensemble, hopping around to do all of these different things and piece together a career that is like all of these different things all combined,
Yeah. It's a rough life.
You make it more than you do it, if that makes sense. Like for a lot more of us just make it, like make your job than do, which is cool because like there are things to like about it and there's things I hate about it. Like, I'm not putting into my retirement in a traditional way. Like they don't just like, it's not like I show up, do my job and then numbers work out a certain way.
Mhm.
but I'm also not working to make other people money. Like
Yeah.
everything I do is my own decision. Everything I do is for me. Like I'm not working at, I don't know, Pizza Hut to make Papa Pizza Hut more money. You know, that's not what
Right.
I'm doing, you know? So there's a good and a bad for that. And like, not to say like, not to say that that's bad. Like, not to say that if you do go in, you clock in, and then you make an organization better. There's a lot to be said about that too, especially if you believe in the organization that you're working for. But it is cool that like every decision I make is my own. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've gotten to the
Yeah.
point where for the first time this past year, that I've said no to something. Like I just don't want to do that. And so I just said no, you know. So yeah, those decisions, you know, I'm one of the people that I don't
I've
think
started
that,
letting go of going into schools. I'm not doing it anymore.
yeah.
I go into one, and then I'll do it every once in a while. But I hated, man. So they did not build Hillsborough County schools. I'm tossing us out there. They did not build Hillsborough County schools band rooms with like anything in mind. They just built a space in which instruments could be, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
So there's no like practice rooms. Like none of them have like even like small side. You know, sometimes they'll have like a small side room. So
Yeah.
a lot of times I'm getting thrown into a room with like an 8th grade tuba player into like the storage closet.
Oh my
And
God.
like I'll have a trombone and their trombone can't physically is not allowed to go to 6th position. Like there's just not a room for both of us in there. No windows in a lot of these places, like all sorts of like just like no AC going like in there, which in Florida is quite important. And so if for $30 for a class period. And it's like, I just don't want to do that anymore.
No.
I don't want to do that anymore. But so they'll message me, and now my grade out is like, oh, I'm not available, but I have undergrads who are. You're paying undergrad money, is what you're doing.
Right. Right.
Right. Yeah. And they need to learn how to do that stuff because that's how they get to where you are.
And to be frank, and that's a thing too, is like, is there anything that you can do? Is there anything that I can do for a 6th grader that my 3-year college junior who's been with me for 3 years wouldn't also say at that point? Music and major.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah, but like I can only do so much to hot cross buns. I can only do so much to hot cross buns. You know what I mean? Like, is it worth the extra, like doubling your money for that? Is what is kind of for the band director at that point. You know,
would what they do is sufficient? Sure. Yeah. But, I mean, having Aaron Campbell, the guru, come in and teach my 6th grader wouldn't be a bad thing.
At that point, it's like, is it here because you want your 6th grader to go, or is it just so you can stack your staff? And I'm done with marching band. I'm done with it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done. My knees hurt. Can't do it.
Well, how are you teaching marching band?
I was always out there. I was like out there on the field, football coach, the whole thing. I need to be, if I'm doing it, I'm in the box now. I can't do it anymore. I need to be in the box.
Man, I stopped doing that. Like, I don't know. I stopped doing that a long time ago.
This fall was the first year since 1994 that I didn't teach a marching band.
Really?
Yeah. It's the first time in
and the
Lord
last
knows
time.
how long. Yeah, I'm really not. I would be shocked if I ever teach a marching band ever again. Yeah, and it's not because I don't want to. I love marching band and I love teaching marching band. But it's just, it just doesn't seem like it's going to be in the cards anymore.
The teachers around me,
it's not lucrative enough.
No, and that's the thing. I'm working 12. I'm working 5 band camp days for 12 hours for a lot of these schools, 12-hour days, and you're getting like a check for $750 at the end of it all. And it's like, a lot of the teachers around me have gotten hip to the bringing me in just for sectionals. That I'll do. I'll do sectionals for marching band. But yeah, I like, don't make me your tuba caption head or whatever. I don't know what to do with a sousaphone. Like, it's march good, kids. Left, right, left foot goes first, which, sounds trivial, but it is what it is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I tried to when I was in the UK, I tried to work with Buses the Barn before we went to Whit Friday, and the whole left foot first. Oh man, they did not know how to march. They all just kind of like just meander down through the town for Whit Friday.
I've seen the videos. There's not much marching going on.
I'm telling you, I think that some American bands should go and we would get all the deportment awards. Take like DSB over there with all of the Ohio State marching band alums, and like we would kill at deportment.
Yeah. Well, I
Make
always
some
wanted
money.
to take when I was doing the youth band. I wanted to take the youth band over when those kids are like in the prime of their marching careers. You
Yeah,
know, go there like, look, no, guys, this is how you march down the street.
right. You know how to march. Yeah, yeah. They
Yeah.
just kind of
It was
meander.
you would yeah, you were talking about the library for Sunshine that you acquired. I've been there's a band that started up in Wilmington, North Carolina that I'm conducting at NABA this year, and they started up within the last year. I think they're just over a year old now.
Mhm.
Um, which is awesome to see a new band. So I think there's four brand new bands coming to NABA this year that I don't think have ever been before. But I helped them acquire NC State's brass band library, which had six or 700, maybe 800 charts in it.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, that was
Are
pretty
they
cool. It's
all?
like, oh, you got a new band. Here's a library of music to start you out.
That's awesome. That's handy.
Great.
That's that's probably the two biggest expenses that typically get put on the founder, like whoever the person founding the group
Right.
is typically whatever. It's wild to me that it costs money. I understand it because you need a barrier to entry, but it's wild to me that it costs money to create a nonprofit. Like, and so if you want to
Yeah.
create an organization so that you can make money and so that you can have a bank account, you just have to have somebody who's willing to pay that couple of $100 to make that happen. Right. If your organization doesn't have anything like to happen in the first place. So you have to do that. And then the second thing is typically you have to buy the first concert at least, because the concert's
Yeah.
typically your first income.
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know,
If you get people to come to it
bingo.
and buy
Yeah.
tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, most
Anybody
of
that
those organizations don't do tickets. Initially, you just ask for donations or $5 at the door or
Yeah.
something.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Wilmington band just did their second Christmas concert back in December, and I went and conducted that. And they had a sold out like over 200 in the audience. And so they filled up the little hall that they were in.
I
And it's like
feel
so
like
cool to see so many people go to a startup concert, a startup
Mhm.
band.
I feel like that and you might think otherwise because you're living in it now, but from what I've seen in general, I feel like that mid-Atlantic, that like Maryland, Virginia, Carolinas area really does support community music a lot better than you would think it would in general.
Well, they don't have a choice because in North Carolina, there's not a whole lot of professional music.
Yeah.
And there's so much amateur music that happens. Like even in the triangle here, there's probably 8 community bands. There's so much, and then you're talking about community theaters and community choirs, and like the market is really oversaturated with it. Like they're all fighting for the same audience. So it's actually really, really tough to get an audience. But down in Wilmington, there's not as much going on. There's a lot of people down there. So, you get the word out and you actually could, it could be really successful down there because it's the only game in town.
I think if you extend that mid-Atlantic region up to Delaware and New Jersey, there's a lot of shore towns that have had, the concert in the gazebo for as long as everyone can remember. And that's kind of part of the tradition of like the Jersey Shore and the Delaware Beach type situation, where everyone remembers growing up and having those concerts in those gazebos. And now that things are bigger and there are convention centers and theaters and stuff, like that continues on. So there, these theaters and these halls still are bringing in all of these minor acts, and there's someone performing, on the Wildwood Boardwalk Theater, every night, every single night, because someone is on vacation every single night, so it's not just a Friday, Saturday,
Yeah.
Sunday. Some of these beaches have these little tiny theaters that are full all summer.
Yeah.
So,
That's really cool.
before we wrap up our Hey Audience, I swear we're a live episode. What are some things that, we've kind of, in a lot of ways, in terms of putting out content,
Mhm.
we're not in a groove with that, but we are in a groove in terms of I think we know what an episode is. You know what I mean? Like, we bring somebody on, we chat about a thing, we have a good time. But what are some things moving forward? Some adjustments? What are some things that you would like to see us get involved in, and maybe we can give to the audience of I think we might flirt with maybe doing this or that little thing. Like, I would love, for me personally, just to kick us off, I would love to start to develop almost segments, not hard and fast, now it's time for the weather, not anything like that, though that is the beginning of every episode.
It's snowing.
Yeah, that is the beginning of every episode is how's the weather.
It's cold and snowing.
But, things like that, okay, once we get to about this point, let's talk about this thing or a current events thing or, something like that. And we'll start working on that. But that's going to require research on our part, or my part, at least. But what do you think? Is there anything else or any people we want to have come in or any events we want to talk about that we haven't talked about before?
I mean, there's something that I've been thinking about too, is how do you get larger audiences for stuff? And it's usually because you do something controversial. And I think something that we don't do is we don't really deal with controversy and what we talk about, and I'm just wondering if we should just start talking some smack about some stuff.
All right, at 500 subs, 500 subs, I'll play French horn.
We want people to watch this. Just
the controversy of it all. After James Gourlay, I've learned that that horn is controversial. Apparently. Amy, do you have anything that you want to hit or anything that you want to do differently?
I don't know. I mean, I think that this eventually can become a bigger thing. Reporting on more brass band stuff. There's so much brass band stuff that we're not able to touch on. I think it'd be really cool to eventually have us disseminate information on the website. Somehow link up, so that we can be a source of information for people. That's what the New World Brass event was started as back in 2013, 14, something like that. That's what this was started as. This is gonna be news to people who haven't, who aren't the three of us. I started New World Brass. As a source of brass band information, and a hub of news for what's going on in the North American brass band world. But I didn't have the funding set up. I didn't have enough organizational strategy to keep that project going. So when you guys came to me to do a podcast, I was like, I have a logo, I have a website, I have everything all ready to go. So we named this the New World Brass Cast. So, but New World Brass is still an idea of a place that could be more than just a podcast. But I think it needs to have more organization than it initially had. And more of an organized mission than it originally had. But I think that would be a really cool thing to evolve into eventually. That, and I really want hoodies for NABA.
Look out for the drop shipping store coming soon.
Right. I mean, it didn't make much sense at the previous location for the championships, but now that we're back in the north, New World
It was chilly in Alabama.
It was not chilly in Alabama.
It was chilly.
It was not. It is.
Some of us live in South America.
Right now.
Okay. Yeah.
It will be negative 8 tomorrow.
And then I do want to extend that out to the people who listen to this thing.
Yeah.
I have my questions, my fun little side questions there, but like would really like to hear what you all think in the various comments and what you would like to see from this podcast. I mean, and don't be a smart aleck and be like a more regular schedule, because we just don't have that. Like just with our schedules, I think the idea of until we start, we're just not making income on this thing. So just don't be surprised that sometimes it takes 2 weeks to put out an episode, and sometimes it'll take 3 weeks, and sometimes it's a week, and just availabilities and stuff. So we don't have that for you. But if there's certain things you would like us to see or cover or do, let us know. At any point, the product's for you.
Yeah.
But I think we have enough to wrap. We can call it on that. And
okay.
I'm going to go watch a very sad day in college football because there's no SEC team in this championship. And so it's like, who cares about this? It's just like,
Are you crazy? This is going to be epic, man.
It's gonna be epic. We have the Buckeye flag out front. We have 2 Buckeye banners next to the TV in the living room. We're ready. We're ready to go.
This is like the greatest month of the year for football. We have the artist formerly known as the Redskins still in the playoffs.
That Daniels kid is playing. Man, he's playing well. Yeah, he's playing like crazy. All right, y'all. Yeah. Before we get into football chat, we'll talk to you later.